What I recorded didn't record, so we're trying this again. I do have a new camera. Apparently I don't know how to use it. The SD card that they sent with this little cheap digital camera, supposed to be 32 gigabytes, has about 1.5 gigabytes apparently, and I can't format it on my computer. So I'm using an SD card that I already had. Good for me, yay. I don't have to delay recording this video any longer. I have an SD card that I can use. Today's video is all about red flags in QuickBooks Online. I had a much longer intro that I filmed that is lost, and I'm not going to do all of that again. So welcome, I'm Reagan. I'm the numbers witch. I'm that QuickBooks bitch, and I'm an advanced certified QuickBooks Online ProAdvisor. I'm platinum level, which just means that I have a lot of QuickBooks Online clients. So if that's a thing that you care about, feel free to check out my ProAdvisor page on the QuickBooks Online ProAdvisor directory, and you can see all of my wonderful accolades. But today's video is going to be about red flags because I thought that was a symbol that most of us could relate to and understand what I'm trying to get across here. These are signs that something is off in your QuickBooks Online. And there is a very loud bird squawking outside. So if that's coming through on the audio, I do apologize. I am not a professional videographer and all that. I don't have like a studio. This is my home office. If something is off in your QuickBooks Online and you suspect that that is the case, it is probably one of these 3 red flags. These aren't the only red flags, but these are the most common ones that I see. And that's why I chose to do this video on the 3 that we're going to talk about today. If you are experiencing one of these issues in QuickBooks Online, I want to encourage you to purchase the Bookkeeping Foundation Kit, because not only does that teach you how to do your bookkeeping on a regular basis, it teaches you how to set up your QuickBooks Online to avoid mistakes and red flags such as these. Plus, you'll get a 30-day free trial in my private entrepreneurial community where me and all of my clients hang out. Inside this community, I do a monthly tutorial for y'all, something to do with QuickBooks Online or bookkeeping. I also do a live Q&A for the month, and I host 2 virtual office hours over on Zoom that is open to anyone who has access to the community. Grab the Bookkeeping Foundation Kit because that's probably going to set you up to avoid a lot of these red flags, and you also get the support from me and my other clients whenever questions do come up or you run into something in your QuickBooks that you're not really sure how to figure out and fix. So the first red flag that I find almost immediately when I open up someone's bookkeeping is auto-added transactions that were imported from the bank and then automatically added to the bank register by QuickBooks Online because of an auto add rule that you set up. I want you, if you have ever auto added rules or set up rules to be auto add, log into your QuickBooks right now, go to the bank transactions tab, and then click over to the rules tab, bank rules, select all, and then click on the batch drop down for batch actions and turn off auto add for every rule. That is just best practices in my opinion. By the way, I do have a QuickBooks Online tutorial video for exactly this. My best practices for bank rules in QuickBooks Online, how to set them up properly, my little tricks and tips based on my 10 years of experience using QuickBooks to help make sure that your rules are not going to screw everything up and miscategorize things. But definitely do not turn on the auto add feature and follow the steps to turn off the auto add for any of the rules that are currently set to automatically add transactions to your register. This is just best practice because we want to be the ones going in and reviewing our transactions based on the rules that we set up, but before they get added to the bank register. You, the human, you, the business owner, still need to look at the rules and how they're being applied to different transactions before they get added. Even if you were the one to set up the rules, we make mistakes all the time. And when you first set up a rule, you don't know how it's going to play out with transactions that get imported until probably a few months or even a year later, until QuickBooks has seen that transaction come through a couple times. That is when you really get to know how that rule is being applied. And it's important to make sure that it's being applied correctly before things get automatically added to your register. So this is something that I look for and that I find right away that a lot of business owners do, because there's a little pop-up that QuickBooks Online brings up when you're matching things in the bank feed. And it tells you, oh, let's set up a rule for this transaction because we see you make purchases here a lot. Do you want to turn this rule on and then set it to auto add? And never allow QuickBooks to set up auto add rules for you. And the reason being is because it's just automatically added. There is no time for you to go in and look at how those rules are being applied. And that can lead to miscategorizations and errors like I talked about. And that can lead to your reports being wrong, you being stressed out, your tax return being incorrect, and nobody wants any of that. So stop with the auto add rules. Now, the way to see if there was an auto add rule for a bunch of transactions is you're going to go to the bank transactions tab and click over from the for review tab to the categorized tab. And from there, you will see, it will tell you which transactions were automatically added. I think there's even a filter that will allow you to filter for those transactions. From there, you can just select all of those transactions and undo them after you've turned off the auto add rules. That brings anything that was automatically added by QuickBooks back to the for review tab so that you can correctly classify them and correctly set up rules. I'm not saying don't use rules, just don't turn on the auto add feature. This is a big one, and this is why this is the first red flag in this list. Red flag number 2 that I see when I'm looking at your chart of accounts or your balance sheet report in QuickBooks Online is when I notice that there are negative bank or credit card balances. And this is something that happens frequently whenever you first start adding credit card transactions to your bookkeeping, because a lot of people don't automatically connect their credit card to QuickBooks Online. And they add all of the credit card transactions and charges and expenses to the register manually. But then they eventually decide, screw this, I'm not doing this manually anymore. And they connect the credit card. But if you've already reconciled the credit card, QuickBooks Online will not match bank transactions to transactions in the register that have already been reconciled. And that causes things to be doubled. And specifically with a credit card, this happens because you are not correctly matching the payments to the credit card from the checking account. If you are not matching the checking account to credit card payments and not matching the credit card payments from the checking account and their respective bank feeds, that can cause the credit card payments to be doubled in the credit card register. And this is how people's account balances get really low or get very, very negative very quickly, because doubling credit card payments usually means that your account balance in QuickBooks Online is going to be negative, and it's going to be very negative. Whereas you know that you have a balance on your credit card or you pay it off every month. And so that balance in QuickBooks Online being negative is always incorrect whenever we're talking about credit cards, but also with bank accounts. Like maybe you do overdraft your bank account every now and then, but you should not be seeing a negative bank account balance in QuickBooks Online for months and months and months on end. These are definitely red flags. So the way that I figure out what's going on is I look for those things specifically. I look at how credit card payments are being matched in the bank feed, and if they're being recorded manually, if the credit card has been reconciled, etc., etc. And what I want to get to with this particular red flag is the importance of reconciliation. Because reconciling is the way that we check our math. It's the way that we check our work. It's making sure that our account is in balance. That is reconciling the QuickBooks Online balance to your bank statement balance. That's how we fix it. That is the fix, is to go reconcile your account. Take your most recent bank or credit card statement, or if you haven't reconciled in a couple months, we reconcile in chronological order. That means that you need to reconcile starting with the oldest statement. If you reconciled December, but you never reconciled January forward, we start with January's statement and reconcile. Reconciling will identify which transactions might have been doubled or are extraneous, or even if there are missing transactions, because that could be a cause for your credit card balance being negative. Reconciling is always the way to go. And again, I teach you how to reconcile your accounts inside Bookkeeping Foundation Kit. I give you my 5 top troubleshooting techniques that work every time when I get stuck on someone's reconciliation. So grab the Bookkeeping Foundation Kit, get in there and get reconciled. That will identify which transactions don't need to be in your register and are causing the balance to be off. From there, there is a little bit of cleanup to do if we have been matching things in the bank feed wrong, especially if it's a transfer or a payment from the checking account that was classified incorrectly. There is some cleanup to do there. Essentially, what this comes down to is whatever your strategy is for data entry, you need to stick to that. If you are manually entering your transactions and not importing them from the bank, stick to that. Because if you are manually entering transactions and then you start importing from the bank, you connect your accounts, that is how we wind up with double entries. And yes, we are doing double entry accounting, but I'm talking about transactions being doubled in your bank register. We don't want that. And that happens because you change up how you're doing data entry. So stick to what you know, or if you want to change it, make sure you set a dividing date. If you did manual entry up through December of last year and you wanted to connect your accounts starting in January so you didn't have to manually enter your transactions anymore, use January 1st as the cutoff. After that, do not import transactions from before January 1st using the bank import fee because you already entered them manually. The third and final red flag is something that I see less frequently, and it just grinds my gears whenever I do find that in someone's bookkeeping, and that's using the uncategorized categories, which sounds like a paradox or an oxymoron, and it truly is, because there is nothing that you do in your business that does not have a category as far as the bookkeeping goes. So if you're using uncategorized expense or uncategorized income or miscellaneous income or expenses, I don't like that. I don't want you using those categories. Everything can be categorized. The way you categorize something is just by simply asking yourself, what purpose did this serve in my business? If it is income, what did you do in order to make that income? What did you sell, or what services did you provide in order to produce that revenue? Same thing with expenses. How did that expense or how did that purchase serve you in your business? What did you buy with it? If it was software, put it in a software fees category. If it was some way to advertise or promote your business, put it in advertising and promotion. There's always a way to categorize something, and no expenses or income should end up in a miscellaneous or uncategorized category. So move it out of there. Check your profit and loss right now if you're not sure whether you've been doing that, because it's possible that if things are in uncategorized, that's a sign that something was turned on in the bank rules to be automatically added to your bookkeeping. Those two red flags usually go hand in hand. Check your profit and loss statement and look for any categories that are uncategorized or miscellaneous. Move those transactions to their proper categories immediately. Then go to your chart of accounts and make the uncategorized or miscellaneous categories inactive. Set them to inactive. You don't need them. You're never going to use them because everything has a category. If you've asked yourself over and over again, how did I benefit from this purchase? Or what way did I make this revenue? And you can't think of anything, that's a great time to create a new income or expense category. And I have a whole video, 2 videos actually, one for each income and expense categories. And I'm going to link them here for you and in the description below so that if you need help setting up income and expense categories, you can go watch those videos. But asking yourself how to categorize something, coming up with an answer, and then not seeing anything on your chart of accounts that relates to that category, it's time to create a new one. And feel empowered and free to go ahead and set up those expense categories as you need for your business. And remember, they should still be ordinary and necessary if they're an expense in order for them to be tax deductible. They need to be an ordinary expense for your business type, for your industry, and necessary in that you get something out of it from making that purchase. So just to recap this video, we talked about the red flags, the most common 3 at least that I see when I'm looking at someone's QuickBooks Online and someone's bookkeeping. And those were rules set to automatically add transactions that have been imported from the bank and transactions that were auto-added, negative bank and credit card balances, because that's just never the case in real life, and things categorized to uncategorized or miscellaneous categories. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel for more QuickBooks Online tutorials and information about how to do your bookkeeping right and consistently, and grab my bookkeeping foundation kit. If you liked this video, hit that like button and leave me a comment below letting me know what you learned and if there are any questions that came up or things that you want me to dive deeper into in QuickBooks Online. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'll talk to y'all soon.